Party people, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are knocking out days 15 and 16. It is the 19th today, and I took a bit of a break from my album to live December and to work on actually making memories so I could document them. So I took a bit of a break from the project. I was really good at working on it every night, and then I had my office holiday party and I was just feeling like really tired, and I was like, I'll catch up on the weekend. So today's Sunday the 19th. My plan is to get through 15, 16, and 17 today. I already have 15 and 16 printed, so I figured since I had 15 and 16 printed, I would stop and assemble them and then like kind of check in and see how I'm doing. If I'm feeling good, I'll get back to work and finish 17. If not, I'll work on 17 and 18 some other day. The cool thing about this project is it is a marathon, not a sprint. There is nothing that says that you have to have your whole album done by December 31st. These are the lies I tell myself. They don't exist. So I am giving myself license to like take it easy. So we'll see. But I'm going to get 15 and 16 done. Day 15 was a everyday kind of day. I had a really trying day at work. The end of the year is always really tough for us. And I came home and Joshua had made dinner. He made us tacos with like rice and stuff. And I had taken a picture of my dinner. And my story is about him. So I used a stamp from the For the Love kit and then just did some journaling. And the prompt that I wrote is one of my favorite things about you is all the ways you say I love you. And I made like that's what I started with because Joshua and I have very different love languages, and it took us some time to figure out how to say I love you to each other in ways that you would understand. If you're familiar with the love languages, there's 5 love languages: words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, and giving gifts. I always forget gifts because that's not one that resonates with me. The language I give love in is words of affirmation, and the language I receive love in is acts of service. And my husband both gives and receives love in physical touch, which is not a love language that comes naturally to me. So we've been making, an effort to make sure that our partner feels loved in the way that they receive love. And so Joshua has been really making an effort to do really nice things for me randomly, and it's such a joy. So I came home Wednesday after a really trying day, and he had already had dinner ready, and I was just like, wow. So that's my story. It's going to be a really simple 1-page spread. I'm going to make a vellum pocket. I literally put my photo and my story back to back, put it in the pocket, find some way to adhere this down, and then call that done. And then for day 16, we had our office holiday party. So if you have Allie's 8.5 by 11 slanted layered templates, which come like this, if you flip them on their side, they work out really well in this album. So I had a bunch of photos. These are going to get put back to back in my album. I think for the sake of taking pictures, I'm going to take the pictures like this so you can see the whole spread. But when they go in my album, they're going to go in the album back to back like this. I have an embellishment for here. I'm going to do some stamping to fill this space. I printed it like this so I can make sure that the card I stamp fits this space exactly. And then I have some pictures of my coworkers from the night. There were a lot more, but like you can't put every picture in the album. And then I'm going to make a layered transparency that's going to go right on top of this. So, ooh, that glare was awful. So yeah, that's the intro. That's the plan. I am going to put my headphones on and get to work. And then I'll come back and I'll probably voice over what I'm doing here and then come back and check in with you guys and read my journaling when I'm done. All right, party people, so let's get to work. Both of these pages are pretty simple to put together and to recreate. So the first thing I did was cut down a vellum pocket, and I cut down my pocket a few times. The final size ended up being 6 3/4 wide by just a hair over 7 inches long. I needed to make sure that it was long enough that it would stick to the bottom of the page, but not so long that my photos could not be pulled out of it. My photo tag is printed exactly 6 by 8, just because I wanted to make sure that there was enough room for it to fit in the pocket. I wanted it to kind of be the forefront of the page, but I wanted to make sure there was enough room for it to fit in the pocket, but also enough room that I could put the 15 over the top of the page and the vellum, and it wouldn't all be like interfering with each other. So I stuck down my vellum pocket using some 1/8 inch score tape. I thought about pulling out my sewing machine, but I was having such a good day and I didn't want my sewing machine to ruin it. And if you know anything about me, you know my sewing machine and I are barely friends. We get along on the best days, and then on other days it really can set me off. So I just decided to stick it down with some score tape and save the machine stitching for some other day. Now I'm just using some double-sided tape runner to adhere the photo of my dinner back to back with my journaling. I will read my journaling at the end of the video, so you can, if you want to see what the story says, just stick around till then. I'm using a old tag. This is like a 4x8 tag from previous years. I keep all of my supplies in my Rascog, so I have access to older and new supplies, and I do enjoy mixing and matching. And I'm just using the tag to help me cut my photo into an even shape. I find that using an existing tag is a really easy way of making sure that when you cut your tag, it's the same on both sides. And then I punched a hole using my Crop-A-Dial and the 1/8. I think the 1/8 size hole, the smaller hole, and then I fed some ribbon through it just so that there was a tag, so to help me pull out the photo. And I thought about putting it on the journaling side, and then decided I wanted to put it on the photo side. So I flipped it back, and then I pulled out these tiny fray stickers that have been living on my desk. There have been a few supplies that have just been living on my desk because I've been using them on almost every page. This red and white sheet of tiny fray stickers has been on my desk. As you see, you can kind of see where the red, not gold chipboard hearts. I will not do that again, even though you guys seem to really enjoy me just calling these red glitter hearts gold. I just popped one right on top of my photo, and then to repeat the whole design, I added another one on the side of my journaling. And it's really easy to find, phrases that match. These stickers tend to be kind of universal. And then I used some wet glue, a lot of glue, to stick down my number. I decided to overlap the 1 and the 5. If I had not overlapped it, I would have had to move the 1 over, and I kind of wanted you to still be able to see the picture through the vellum. So I chose to overlap it, and then this was a black and gold foil pleather circle from last year that says more sparkle, less stress. I feel like I said this already, but I really liked how last year's kits had the black and the gold foil. And then I thought about leaving the page like that, but it was a little too simple for me. So I pulled out one of those die cut banners that I've used a ton. These are some acetate stars that I think came in the star kit last year. And so I layered the star with the die cut on the bottom of the 1 and the 5, just kind of hanging off. I kind of tucked the die cut underneath the 15 a little bit, added another red, not gold, a red glitter chipboard heart on top of it, and that pretty much completes day 15. I love how simple it is. I love that the story and the photo are front and center, and we literally just move right along to day 16. So for day 16, like I said, I started with a layer template, put all my photos and my journaling, so it's literally just a matter of embellishing because the brunt of the project is done. I layered one of those fabric stickers over a acetate circle from last year. Last year there were a ton of acetate. Actually, I think it was last year, but now I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it was last year. Sorry about that. There was a ton of acetate circles. And so I layered the smaller one underneath a fabric one. And then for my transparency, I pulled out a few other circles. There's that larger acetate one that was definitely from last year. And then I pulled out that green one that says This December Story, added 2 more of the fabric ones, and then pulled out another black pleather circle. This one's a little bit larger than the one I used on day 15, but since this is going opposite day 15, I thought it would make a lot of sense to have a similar element on both sides. Now, even though they are separate stories, I think it does help to tie the flow of the album together. And I really like the way that black graphic element looked on the grid transparency. This transparency is from a very old Felicity Jane kit that I had sitting in my stash, and I just pulled it out and it was perfect. So now I'm adding some more of those red stickers. I need like a backup sheet. I have a bunch of other ones, but I like this typewriter font, and I like the size of these. Some of the older tiny fray stickers that Ali did were a lot wider than these, and they had that more Arial sans serif font, and this has the typewriter font, and I do all of my journaling in the typewriter font, so I really appreciate these, and I keep reaching for them. So I scattered 3 of them across the page, and now I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do to fill out that spot. I knew I wanted to do some stamping, so I cut a piece of cardstock to 3x5, which is a little bit larger than the size of that space, and I'm going to pull out a circle stamp, and I'm pretty sure the stamp was available last year. Now, originally I was going to stamp in red and green, and then I remembered that I had a red embellishment that I wanted to use, so I decided to stamp in green and gray. And my stamping is super grungy, which is kind of the point. The point was not to have really even stamping. The point was to have a filler card. So I stamped the Fa La La circle over and over in gray, and then I pulled out the stamp that looks like music notes. It looks like sheet music, and I stamped that in green. And my stamps I use are Hickory Smoke. The inks I use, are Hickory Smoke. These are all Distress Oxides, and Bundled Sage. Hickory Smoke is the gray, Bundled Sage is the green. just did some stamp testing, and then I went ahead and then just layered that stamping right on top of the gray. And I'm purposefully overlapping all the circles because I don't want them to be discrete images. I kind of just want them to fill up the space. And I'm stamping on a foam pad. I highly recommend stamping on a foam pad if you're doing any sort of stamping, because it helps you get a better impression when there's something with some give underneath. Also, again, the nature of the beast with stamping with distress inks is that you aren't going to get like super clean stamping every single time. But since I wasn't going for that, like I wanted it to look kind of grungy, I'm really happy with how it came out. So I'm just sticking it down over where that gray brown space was. I printed it with that gray brown space to make sure that I knew exactly where my stamping was going to go. I made sure to leave the space in between since all the photos have that white edging. And then I cut it down so you can kind of see that it fits in that spot perfectly. I'm super happy with how that worked out. And then I pulled out my embellishment box. There's that red sticker that I knew I wanted to use. I don't think I've used any of these. I still have the 3 that came in the kit. And I thought this would be a perfect place to use it since there's so much red on the rest of the page. I stuck that down. I put my 2 pages together side by side to make sure everything looks okay. And I'm super happy with how these 2 days worked out. So I'm going to stop talking so that the video can pick back up now. Okay, so we're back. I am all done with getting day 15 and 16 put together. The video has been running at this point for 32 minutes. So if we factor in, let's say 5 minutes for my intro, it probably took me 20 minutes to put these 2 pages together. Now, obviously that does not include time in Photoshop, getting the layered template situated, getting my photos edited the way I like them and putting them in the layered template. And it doesn't include journaling time, but I think it just goes to show that this is a really approachable project if you're considering it. If you're wondering, I don't have the time it takes to make a completed album. This is a really approachable project if you break it down into bite-sized chunks. I will say, before I started filming, I probably spent 45 minutes. I journal every day. That's the one thing I do. I hate when I say things like that, but that's the one thing I do is I journal every day to make sure that my stories are not forgotten. So I write every day, and I use the Day One app. I talked about this a lot in my Week in the Life videos, but I use the Day One app so I can keep all my stories in the Day One app, which, then gets my stories off my phone, onto my iPad, onto my computer. So I do write every day, but that's all I do some days. And I do, sketch out pages on my iPad if I have an idea of what I want the page to look like. But breaking this project down into chunks makes it really approachable. From start to finish, I want to say I worked on these 2 days for an hour. And that's 2 more days in my album. So if that's your barrier to this project, if you're really considering it, but you're like, I don't have the time constraint it takes, break it down and make it accessible. Some of my pages definitely take a lot longer. That day 12 page took forever, but then there's pages like this that don't. So I will quickly read to you my story for day 15. I'm going to take it out of my pocket. So it just says, one of my favorite things about you is all the ways you say I love you. We learned early on that our love languages don't necessarily line up. I talk more than one person ever should, and I'm constantly barraging you with lists upon lists about why you're awesome while you're just cuddly close and gamely put up with all of it. And I appreciate all the ways you make an effort to show love in a language my head and heart understands. So on days like this one, days where work goes on far too long and it is a long slog just to make it through, I love that you say I love you by having dinner ready and by giving me space to do the things that begin the process of filling me back up, and by cleaning the kitchen even though our standing deal is one cooks and the other one washes, and by making my tea, and just by being there when I need to vent and cry and. Some days I wonder how I got this lucky, how we managed to find ourselves here after all these years later, and then I stop asking, stop wondering, and give myself wholeheartedly to loving this imperfect experience with you. This is from I don't know if I said this before, but this was a journaling card from the For the Love Story Kit, and this is a digital stamp from the For the Love Story Kit. I reach for the For the Love Story Kit all the time because love stories are my favorite stories to tell. So it's a great kit, and I love that I have the digitals and I can constantly just, change them and do things with them as I see fit. And then, again, I haven't adhered these together because I am going to take the pictures with it like this, so it's easy to get both pages in the frame. But then when it goes in the album, these pages are going to be adhered back to back. I'm going to punch the holes, and that's how it's going to sit. So here's my cover with my number. I really wanted to just include a transparency because there's nothing really in between these 2 pages. So I thought having this would kind of give you a little bit of breathing room before we get on to the story, because I don't know. I mean, that would work, but then it looks like that's a continuation of that, and this kind of separates them. That's the story I tell myself at any rate. So I wrote, to my found family, you make me forget myself in all the best ways. You make me forget that life is messy and hard and sometimes too much to be borne. And even when I come to work sullen and angry and determined not to have a good day, I am beyond contrary on my best days and absolutely ridiculous on my worst. You poke and prod, sometimes physically. The tickling has gotten out of hand a few times until I have cracked and smiled and all is right once again. You make me forget that I am not as young as I used to be. Next time I'm turning down the shots in the sangria and sticking to a solitary glass of wine like the old lady I have become. Thank you very much. And you make me forget to take myself seriously. I am so grateful for all of you, for you all, for this team cobbled together and bound by shared experiences, for the show rehashings in the office between cases, for the bubble tea deliveries and the ice cream cones, for the inside jokes and the raised eyebrows, for the laughs, for the early morning breakfast parties, for the phone calls when I'm out sick, for the challenges to do better and be better, for the love, for the love, for the love. Cheers to surviving one chaotic year, and cheers to whatever is around the corner. I feel more than capable of tackling it with you by my side. So I have had the same job for the last 11 years, and every year we have a holiday party. And, you know, people come and go, and so there's always new faces at the holiday party, but then there's the core group. And it's really cool having this documented every year because then I get to see pictures. I didn't get a good group photo. This is the best of the group photos, and we were all a little toasted by the time we took this, so we all look kind of crazy. But that's the most group photo I got. I didn't get a good group photo this year, but I like having a group photo so I can see how people change and how the, you know, our staffing changes. But that's day 15 and 16 in the album. I'm so pleased with how this is going, you guys. I am really happy with how this album is shaking up, and I think it is definitely going to be one of my favorites, and this 10:8 size was just what I needed. So that's all I have for you today, guys. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you thought in the comments below, and I will see you for day 17. On day 17, Josh and I went to see Spider-Man, and I kidnapped some stuff from the movie theater that I'm going to be using in my project, and I can't wait to get to it. So, till next time, keep it crafty and have the very best day, and I'll see you around. Bye for now.